Welcome into this impromptu special roundtable meat of the matter carnivore community collaboration. Firstly, we are going to be talking about something that's, in my opinion, one of the most insidious, possibly one of the most insidious things that someone can be exposed to. Now, we've all had somebody that you know, love, or care about not get better. And, us being in the carnivore space, we've seen it as well. And my clients, my friends, my family, this is not about fear. This is about awareness. And we're going to talk about mold today. And just before I introduce you guys, I just wanted to explain how this all happened. Jessica and Brian, we've all communicated. Brian's been on our podcast quite a few times. He's part of the carnivore community worldwide. Follow them. And Jessica at the Christian Health Collaborate. What is it? What is your Christian Health
Collective? Yeah.
I can read, really. We actually recently had a podcast, and although we've all talked about our diets, this is something that that led the direction where Jessica and I started talking about mold, and Brian sent a message saying, if you ever want to do a podcast or have a chat about this, he's probably, I believe you're part of the construction side, Brian. You've seen it from the construction things.
Yes, not many people realize that it's what I describe as building sickness. Okay, so the building itself is actually contributing to your bad health.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can go into the depths of that, and that's what I'm going to do here, and that's why we got together on this.
Yeah,
not many people speak about this. It's no. I call it building sickness syndrome, and not enough people know about it. People think it's just leaky pipes and stuff. It's not. It's more than that. It's much more than that, and we'll go into it later.
Indeed. And I just want to shout out to Mark and Victoria at Carnivore Evolutions, because Mark really put this together. But
yes, he did.
He even said, he's not really known about this, so he's like, let's let you guys have a conversation about it, because it's something that I came across this years ago, and it was just it just kind of crossed in. It was a conversation with Evan Brand. I don't know if you ever heard of him. I don't know how active he is on social media. And then I ran into the Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome with Judy Cho's done a lot of work about this. And, all of a sudden you start relating these things to your life. So Jessica, maybe you can talk about, we just scratched the surface last time we had a talk. So maybe you can sort of lead us up into what you've found and seen and what you're actually doing right now. And I think we got Angela. So we'll just invite Angela on, and we'll get to it. Hi, Angela.
Hello. How are you all?
Great. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Angela. Before we were just about to start Jessica's experience into this topic we're going to talk about today, mold, and Victoria and Mark basically put this together to say that you've had your experiences and your things. So we're, even though we're all part of the carnivore community, so to speak, this is deeper than that. So we're going to get into the awareness of it and from all of our experiences. And we were just leading off with Jessica. She's actually dealing with something right now. So Jessica, if you don't mind, Angela, thanks for coming. And we'll just hear what Jessica has to say, and then we'll get to you as well, because I've heard you've had some experiences.
Absolutely. And I'm also a practitioner, so I work a lot with a lot of these difficult cases. And it's amazing how similar we all are when it comes to mold, but we just don't know it.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So
I want to talk about it, Tony.
And like I said, this is not about fear, because once you start hearing this stuff, you may find this relates to your life. And there's going to be certain things that, obviously Angela's going to, if we're dealing with this, there's ways to know. And it starts with the awareness. It starts with the possibilities, because we may all be exposed in some way, shape, or form. So Jessica, let's what are you dealing with right now? What's happening? You're very echoey, so there's a reason.
My little guy, so I have 3 kids, and obviously my daughter was diagnosed with intestinal failure. My second born was born at 29 weeks. And I keep having these complications, even though I've been healthy my entire life until I got pregnant the first time. So I'm thinking, you know, it's autoimmune. I go to functional medicine doctors. They say, just cut out these foods, take all these pills. They do tens of thousands of dollars worth of blood work, like enough blood to just drain me completely. And all of these tests, and we're not getting still to the root cause. And I think this is another topic, but functional medicine doctors sometimes can act a lot like MDs, and they just want to throw pills and tests at you, but they're still not getting to that root cause. So when my third son, when I was pregnant with him, I started having contractions at 16 weeks. And I was terrified because I was going into preterm labor again. And obviously was very scared, didn't want to lose him. So I opened Becky Plotner's book, the GAPS baby book, and it says preterm labor is a magnesium deficiency. Okay, well, why am I so magnesium deficient? Can't understand it, right? So I take magnesium every single day for the rest of my pregnancy. And if I miss a day, I start going into labor. Wow. And I have to get in the tub with a magnesium bath to like soak it in through my skin. So I was able to make it to term by doing no plant GAPS, which is carnivore, you know, that specific protocol that we use for my daughter, and taking magnesium daily, which I should have plenty of magnesium just from the diet alone. So after that, you know, we're staying in a rental. We don't know what is up. It's not our living space. And Teddy's my little guy. Teddy has eczema head to toe. I'm like, I did everything right. I was carnivore my whole pregnancy. Took iodine, magnesium daily, every single thing you could possibly recommend in the natural health world for an ancestral pregnancy. Why is this child, and I'm breastfeeding him, he's not on formula. Why is he having eczema? And as he's growing, it's getting worse. And he's so inflamed. He's wearing gloves on his hands. He's itching his skin and just bleeding and oozing. It was horrible to watch. And his nervous system's messed up. Then I start having nerve pain, deep nerve pain. Like if I would go to open a pickle jar, for example, my hand would throb and ache. And I'm like, why am I so inflamed? Mold never occurred to me, never once. I just thought that's stupid, to be quite frank, because there's mold everywhere. We live in mold in the environment. So how could it possibly have this profound of an effect? Just didn't even cross my mind. And I said to my husband, we found another GAPS practitioner, and she was a mold expert. And she was like, you need to get out of the place you're living. So we left. And within days, Teddy started getting better. Now, he was at the point where he was having anaphylactic reactions just without eating anything. So he would just start rubbing his face, and he would go into full-blown anaphylaxis. His eyes were swollen all the time. His lips were swollen all the time. Very, very swollen. You couldn't really see his eyes. And we thought that's just how he looked because we had lived in this place. So as we were moving out, we saw mold coming out from behind the walls in certain spots. And you think, how damp and infiltrated does a place have to be to have mold coming through the drywall? So that was almost a year ago. And Teddy looks fantastic. He's pretty much healed head to toe. We moved by the ocean, so he is going to the beach constantly and getting all of that sunshine and salt water, which healed him. But one of the protective things that I was doing that made me sick when I stopped was I was drinking milk kefir every day, and homemade, because I make it for my daughter. I was drinking a quart a day, my whole pregnancy, with 12 egg yolks. And that was keeping my inflammation to zero. I had no inflammation throughout my pregnancy and when he was first born. Then I realized he was anaphylactic allergic to milk because milk protein and mold protein look very similar. So when I stopped drinking the milk kefir, I started having all the same symptoms as him. I mean, raised rashes on my entire body, like hot skin, itching till I bleed. all of the same things that he was having, even though I was still carnivore. But I didn't have those probiotics to keep the mold out of my system. So now we're still working on healing. He's still breastfeeding. He's very allergic to most foods. But the one food that is totally safe for him that he loves is lamb heart. So we special order grass-fed lamb hearts by like the box online. And that's what he eats most of the time, lamb heart and lamb tallow. Lamb is generally easier for kids who are very sensitive. And since then, I've started working with so many of my clients who are coming in who have been no plant gaps for some of them up to 10 years. And they're still having psoriasis or other skin issues. And I'll say to them, have you ever considered mold? And they're like, oh yeah, I have mold in my HVAC system. Yeah, there's mold in the basement. And it just opens up this can of worms, right? But you don't know unless you've been through it or unless you've seen it. And even the naturopath that we worked with before, it didn't necessarily occur to her right away that it could be mold. But I think anyone who's having particularly skin issues, mood disorders, brain fog, those are huge red flags. And inflammation that's unexplained. Huge red flags that something deeper is going on, and it's probably environmental. Because our bodies were made to heal. God made them that way, right? Like everything that we need, if we give ourselves those ingredients, we are going to heal. So if you're doing that and it's not happening, you have to look at your environment.
Well said, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think I have an echo going on here. That might be on my side.
Is it
okay?
me?
Angela, let us know. You specifically work with this kind of thing?
I do. I work with this, but I've also went through this. I've been working with this for over 10 years. And then 5 years ago, I learned that I had it. But for me, and what I see is that it's not just the mold. There's also often underlying infections like chronic Epstein-Barr viruses, Lyme disease, co-infections. And then there's also something that a lot of people don't realize, and actually I'm currently dealing with this right now, is that mold can actually grow in your mouth. And my mold toxicity did start within my environment where I was living at the time. But what I didn't know was that from breathing in the spores, there was black mold growing underneath one of my crowns from where I had a root canal.
Whoa.
And so once that goes into your mouth, because I mean, these spores can go anywhere in your body. If they can go into your tissues, they can go into your cells, into your joints, into your brain, they can go into your mouth. And then when it gets into the mouth, each tooth is connected to a different energetic meridian in holistic dentistry. So once that gets into your bloodstream, I mean, you're going to get a chronic inflammatory cascade. And then there's the next part, because see, a lot of people that have mold and Lyme and these underlying infections, they also don't realize that they are genetically disposed to this, and they have something called CIRS, Chronic Inflammatory Response Syndrome, which is basically a genetic disposition that enables or disables your body from being able to detox efficiently. And then you combine these genetic variants like COMT, MTHFR, and other genes. And so when you're exposed to these spores and these toxins, and the body can't regulate them and get them out, you're just going to create more and more sickness. And it can affect every system in the body. It affects our endocrine system, our nervous system, our digestive system, our joints. And so often when I see within myself, because I struggled with neurological late stage Lyme disease, I struggled with mold toxicity, and then I also had Babesia, Bartonella, and I found out later that I had CIRS, and that's why for me it was so bad, because my genes did not allow me to heal. And so it is a constant battle that even though I might be in remission and like living my best life, I struggle with, because I never know when I'm going to get exposed with something. And going even further than that, something that I see all the time, including with myself, is that, mold and these infections can cause something called mast cell activation syndrome and histamine intolerance. So, I really relate when, you were saying your son goes into anaphylaxis, because I was going into anaphylaxis multiple times a week. Before I was carnivore, I was losing foods left and right, including like everything. I mean, I was down to 89 pounds. So it was, it was like, what do you do in that moment? And I had to really understand something like how to incorporate non-aged meat in my diet. So I started partnering with this farm called Billy Doe Meats, and their meat is what healed me. Like, because I only ate their lamb, goat, and veal because those animals don't require as much hang time as beef.
Exactly.
And I see this with my clients too. And I even have a group on Facebook called Histamine Intolerant Carnivores, because it's so true. When we get this bucket, our histamine bucket gets so full because it's filled with all these toxins. It just takes one little thing to set off our nervous system, which puts our whole body into a cascade inflammatory state. So and then you got to look even deeper than that. It's like your relationships, your nervous system, what are your mindset, it's not just what we're eating, but it's what we're thinking, it's what we're breathing, it's what we're doing. And so healing is not linear, and it takes a lot of different steps to reduce that toxic load so that the body can heal.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel it. And before we touch with you, Brian, this is the other thing about all this is that you can be living side by side with somebody, and somebody could be having severe issues,
Yes,
and you not feel a thing. And that's where
right.
People get into that. Well, it works for me, it doesn't for you. Like this is how every body is different, and where we're at, there's triggers and there's accumulations, and this is why it's so insidious, because it's out of most people's scope of awareness, where it's all connected. And this is, we've all adopted somewhat of a lifestyle, but your environment plays a huge part. And this could be progressing over time. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've heard carnivores, like all of a sudden something is like a grinding halt, and they're not healing,
Yep.
for lack of better words, but they're not doing anything different. But
Right.
Is it their environment? Is it their living space? Is it their school, their church? Like these are all buildings that we just assume are safe. And that ties you, Brian, from your perspective, when
Yes.
you jumped into this about the construction side of things.
Yeah.
Let us know where your thoughts are.
Here we go, my man.
Oh, you're muted, buddy. I don't know what happened. We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I hit the button on the mic. Sorry. Yeah. Angela and Jessica, we heard your effects side of it. I'd like to talk about the cause. And not many people know about this. It's something I've studied for years. It's building physics. It's how mold actually grows. And I set up a business even years ago, back in 2008, I think it was, in order to counteract what I call sick building syndrome in older houses and stuff like that. So many people have suffered from this. It causes so many issues for people. Asthma and everything that you guys named, a lot of it comes down to mold toxicity and the micro particles in the air that come from the mold. And I discovered that it was so easy to counteract. Yes, it costs a bit of money, but I realized that by understanding how condensation happens in the house and in the home, you know, for example, you take a cold, I used to use a can of Coke for an analogy, but now a bottle of water. You take a cold bottle of water out of the fridge. There you go, Tony. Yeah. You do that, you know, during the summertime. You take that out of the fridge and you put it on your table for a few minutes. You're going to get water dripping down the outside of it. Where did that water come from? That water came from condensation in the air. So people don't realize that condensation builds up inside a house very, very quickly, right? It's the steam from your kettle. Even your own breath creates condensation inside a home. There's a statistic that says that a couple in a bedroom at nighttime can create up to 9 liters of water in the air in that house. Okay, yes, that's unbelievable, Jessica. I saw your reaction there.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy, and people don't realize it, right? So there's all this moisture in the air in the house, and then especially if you live in a colder country like I know Tony does. I'm not sure where the rest of you are from, and I'm from Ireland. It's pretty cold during the winter. I live in Denmark now, and it's still cold here, but you've all this condensation inside a house, and if it's not properly ventilated and the house isn't properly insulated, then these condensation points inside the home create areas where mold can grow. So I'm sure you'll often realize that where mold grows is in corners, or it's behind walls where there's darkness. Actually, mold does not like light, so it's behind stuff, right? It's around your windows, it's around your doors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're all nodding your heads. You can see what I'm talking about. Yeah. And it's because the building itself isn't designed to properly insulate. You know, anything that was built before, let's say, 2000 doesn't have the correct physiological stuff to actually prevent mold. Apart from that, then ventilation would be another thing. Okay. We don't have adequate ventilation in a lot of cases. Yeah, like I said, moisture buildup inside a house will create mold. It condenses on the cold places. So if you've got single glazing, it's going to condense the whole window. If you've got double glazing, it's going to condense around the edges. Yeah, because that has a metal strip in it, and that's a cold bridge. What I call a cold bridge. Well, not me, but yeah. So yeah, I have studied every single viewpoint on this, and I know exactly where mold is going to grow in your house. I know exactly where you should insulate, ventilate, and make your house healthy. And, you know, it's only since Mark brought this up with me, I made a comment, I think it was, on what was it, your live maybe a day or two ago. I made a comment, and Mark pulled me up on it. He says, "You got to talk about this," and it's. So I'm really just jigging this around in my mind. Maybe it's something I can get into, is to discuss more with people about how they can actually get around this. It's not as difficult as you think. You don't have to get rid of your house. You just need to improve your house.
Well, I think, Brian, like what you're basically saying is like it's something to, like we mentioned before, but it's something to be aware of. And I would have to pose the question. It's probably there. You just don't see it if your house isn't built properly, right? And that's something that we all have to grasp and understand. It might not be the mold you see.
Exactly. Tony, I've ripped apart houses over the years. You know, like I said, I had a renovation company for a while. I actually specialized in renovating historical buildings and all kinds of stuff, and upgrading them from for energy efficiency and all kinds of stuff. I did private houses, I did apartment buildings, I did all kinds of things like that. To insulate them properly, to make them airtight, and to give them proper ventilation. And it's about controlled ventilation. Okay? People used to say to me, "Oh, you're making the house airtight. How are we going to breathe?" You control the ventilation. That's the answer, right? So you can use heat recovery ventilation. There's a number of different systems that you can put into the house, or, you know, depending on your budget, you can manage it. So yeah, mold. I mean, my God, I have seen so much of it. I've ripped apart buildings that are absolutely, I mean, the wall is just like a tree fanned out with mold. It's just unbelievable. And these people were living in these houses and, yeah, very, very sick. And, you know, this is all adding up for me at the moment. Since I went carnivore, I guess I got blindsided a little bit from it. But hearing your stories and everybody's, issues with mold, I need to start speaking up about this more.
Yeah.
It is a preventable problem, or not preventable, but what would you call it?
Somewhat controlled.
Rectifiable, maybe is a better word. It is rectifiable. You don't have to move house. You just need to renovate a little bit.
Well, there was like we'll get into some of the, like, maybe Angela, you can touch on some of the, let's get into some of the signs that the body's giving that you may not realize is going on, and it's, you know, what to sort of, like, what are the symptoms that you've seen? Let's talk about that, because that's kind of something we can get into.
Absolutely. Low blood pressure or high blood pressure, migraines, vertigo, dizziness, fainting spells. I had fainting spells where I was fainting like 15 to 20 times a day. My blood pressure was really chronically low. Something else I see a lot is people that think that they have MS or lupus. It's like the great imitator. You know, and then we find out that it's actually mold toxicity or Lyme disease. You know, I always say, like, Lyme might load the gun, but mold will pull the trigger. So the mold will just pull the trigger on any systemic autoimmune flare-up. Another thing that I see is weight gain and hormonal disruptions. And that's actually kind of, I'm going through a little bit of that right now currently. Because since I healed, you know, I decided that I'm going to go live my best life and travel and do all these things. And I'm not taking my binders, and I'm not, you know, being cautious. And now my hormones are struggling a little bit. And I'm like, can't seem to lose a pound if I tried. So I see that a lot in people, like weight loss resistance and slower metabolisms and thyroid. Thyroid is huge. Like, I feel like thyroid is one of the biggest things, because so many people think that, you know, the carnivore diet or not eating carbs is lowering their metabolic state. And I'm like, no, you're probably being exposed to mold, and that's what's destroying your thyroid. The carnivore diet's keeping you going. Yeah. But, you know, people only want to hear what they want to hear. But, and then hair loss. Hair loss is a big one. Dry skin. Changes of taste in the mouth, food sensitivities, mast cell activation, histamine intolerance, and like I see a lot of joint pain, back pain, brain fog, and OCD. A lot of OCD with mold people, so like hyper anxiety and mood disorders.
It's fair enough to say all symptoms are possible, and
absolutely,
and that's
absolutely.
What, you know, and when I'm talking to people or helping people, you know, you often come across, well, you know, we said it before, I'm doing everything right, but there's a cause and effect, and if something changes when you've been doing the same things, and you've had, whether it's a healing thing happen, but then your body gets put back in a situation and you haven't changed anything, these are things to think about. And Jessica, when you're talking to people, or when your clients or the people that you're talking to about this, how quickly do you test for mold or check for mold or ask about this now?
Just probably like Angela, it's one of the first things that I think about, especially I work with a lot of families who have children with autism, and if the autism is resistant to the GAPS diet, I know there has to be mold. And then other symptoms like mold rage is a really big one, nerve pain, and other symptoms that we associate with autism, like sensitivity to light, sensitivity to sound. People have severe issues regulating temperature, which all of this comes down to different nutritional deficiencies that get depleted because the body is working so hard to get rid of the mold. So the magnesium deficiency I spoke about earlier that I had, that was causing preterm labor. That was also causing nerve pain in my body. I have clients who cannot regulate temperature and they need to be 55 degrees or lower or they will faint. That is from magnesium deficiency. So you see a lot of, when I see these red flags popping up, I almost always know that this is what it is. But I think just like Brian was saying, you can fix the home, you can also heal your body, and you can create a very resilient microbiome without, by keeping things very simple. But I think one thing that we overlook in carnivore a lot of times is probiotics. And I am not a fan of probiotic pills. I think they're largely useless. But thinking about traditional probiotics from an ancestral point of view, so my clients have had great success, even some of them without leaving their homes, because they just simply couldn't afford it, by introducing milk kefir, sauerkraut, fermented vegetables, beet kvass, whatever it is that they tolerate. Now, a lot of them are no plant. So your only options, if you don't have plants, will be fermented dairy. So yogurt, sour cream, kefir. Keep in mind, it has to be 100% homemade. You cannot buy this stuff at the store and see the same results. And people who are this nutritionally deficient, they need organ meats. They are not going to be okay by just eating muscle meat. They need liver, they need heart, they need kidneys. The DOA or DAO enzymes that are made in the body that break down histamine, that's coming, you can get a tremendous amount of it by eating kidneys. So there are these really specific things that can be done to help mitigate those effects, build the body back up, and you can also eliminate Lyme and all of the co-infections that are present in the body. They're living there dormant in the microbiome because they're living under biofilms and nothing has pushed them out. So when you introduce these very powerful probiotics, and many of us have to go very slowly because of mast cell activation syndrome, when you introduce these powerful probiotics, they break down the biofilms and those infections come out and leave the body and they never come back. You can completely eliminate Lyme, you can completely eliminate Babesia, you can completely eliminate every single co-infection that you can think of, and the treatment path is always the same. So people don't have to spend thousands of dollars to go and get tested for all of the co-infections. They can simply work. I like the no plant GAPS protocol personally, especially for mold, but obviously I work with kids who are in organ failure and kids who have really severe autism, nonverbal, 23 years old, and even adults with, severe autism. So I'm a big fan of that protocol because it includes those probiotics that will break down those biofilms and get rid of the colonization of mold in the body, just like Angela was talking about. When you're colonized, all you need to do is replace those pathogens in the body with the proper beneficial bacteria. And once you do that, the mold cannot live in your body because it's been crowded out.
And I think a really important thing to realize here, and I think we all could agree on this, is like in a perfect environment, in a perfect ancestral environment, all things created equal in a human being living a human way. It's different now. The modern day, whatever your environment is, whatever your lifestyle is, there's stuff that you may have to do to mitigate that. And carnivore might not be enough. Like, that's the thing where all these toxins and chemicals, I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface on forever chemicals and all the stuff that we're exposed to. These are just accumulating. And, you know, I think the big message of this is to realize there is things that are going on that you might not be aware of that you can do to, you know, mitigate it. And I'm very thankful for both of you ladies to come on here and talk about your experiences with this, because I think this is so crazy that, you know, one person, I mean, I'm pretty sure I would go out on a whim and say everybody is exposed to mold in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I don't think there's any way around it. You're walking down in a shopping mall, Brian. I don't know how they're constructed, but, you know, how are modern day buildings, Brian? How are they? What do they even think about mold when they're constructing these things? Or
modern day, Tony, is slightly better. It's those that are living in older buildings that have the issues. Like I said earlier, I think it was anything before 2000 is a sick building. I'm certain of that. Like I said, I've studied the physics of how you know, air moves inside a house, how it transverses through the walls of the house, how the insulation works, how the ventilation works, how, you know, the heating system works, how it all works together within a home. So you think of your typical day, if you've got a family of 3 or 4, let's say, for example, you've got a couple of showers going on, you've got a kettle boiling a few times, you know, you've got all of these things happening, maybe somebody cooking some stuff. You've got all these happening, and it's all creating moisture in the air, apart from the fact that they're all breathing, which creates moisture in the air. Like I said earlier, people don't realize that a couple sleeping in a bedroom at night for 8 hours creates close to 9 liters of water in the whole flipping place. It's unbelievable, and people just don't get it. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about what we call, it's called the condensation dew point. So you've got a basic wall in front of you, an external wall of your house. Okay, so when the air hits that wall, if it's insulated from the outside, the wall is warm. If it's insulated from the inside, the wall is cold. Okay, so if you've got some insulation on the inside, the condensation dew point is on the back of that insulation, and that's where the mold grows, and that's where we're having problems.
So if you, okay. So I need you to clarify this. So if you take away the wall and you have insulation, you're saying you won't see the mold. It's behind the insulation. It is possible.
Yes. 100%.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
so
that's comforting.
I built a whole company around it years ago, externally insulating houses, which kept the wall warm, and the condensation dew point was outside the wall. The condensation did not happen inside the wall, and that's where a lot of people, they don't understand that. They don't get the whole concept of the condensation dew point, and it's why you've got mold growing around your windows. It's why you've got it up the corners, along the top of the ceiling. It's, yeah, I think you guys are all nodding your heads. You understand where I'm coming from here.
We've all seen it. You've all seen it.
Yes,
but it's happened. Yeah.
It's the weak points in the insulation fabric of the building. It's the lack of ventilation taking that moisture out. Okay, so lack of fresh air. Yeah, so opening your window during the summer will do it.
So,
but during the winter, nobody's doing that. I mean, Tony, you're in Canada. Like I said, I'm from Ireland, but living in Denmark. It's cold during the winter. You're not going to do that. So especially during the winter, mold kicks in big time. And it's a simple fix in my mind. Okay, it costs a little bit of money, but if you're renovating your house anyway,
yeah,
you know, if you're doing up your house and you want to make it healthy, you know, I think it's something I might take up, Tony, to be honest with you, based on this conversation. I might take up
I would buy your course for sure.
Yeah.
I might take this up as a kind of a consultation thing for people that are renovating houses. I only thought of this today when Mark brought this up yesterday, and now we're all of a sudden doing a live on it. And I think that possibly it could be an avenue I might go down.
Nice.
Is to help people to renovate their houses properly, remotely, help them in some way.
With a hunter-gatherer mindset.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the construction hunter-gatherer. I don't know.
Just living in huts made of mud.
I would. We'll all be in caves and huts by 2030.
Yeah, they'll be warm, Tony, and they won't.
Can I ask Brian a quick question? Is that okay?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, Brian, I'm wondering, I've seen a lot of people on Instagram who are building traditional houses using, I think it's lime, or some type of lime plaster for the walls. How much more expensive is it to build a house the traditional way, a hunter-gatherer house, than it is to build the modern way? And do you think that those techniques are actually effective in preventing mold, or those materials?
That's a very good question. I have to think about that for a second, but I think there's a lot of fluff about, this whole green building thing. I think it's a lot of fluff. People build houses out of hemp and all kinds of stuff. And cost-wise, I'm not sure. I haven't done cost comparisons on them.
Okay.
Health-wise, I think, yes, if you're using natural materials, it's going to breathe better, basically. But I'm guessing it's going to cost quite a bit. I have, a number of different methods in my head, and they would be definitely more cost effective and just as green, if you want to call it that. That would be simpler and easier to do for sure, and definitely more cost effective. Yeah, because you got to hire a bunch of hippies with a caravan to build those ones.
It sounds like fun.
That's pretty good to me, man. I don't know.
I assume that the houses probably can't be as big too, right? Because they can't be constructed in this
exactly. Look, you got to kind of meet it in the middle, I think. That's my opinion. You don't need to go all out, completely kind of caveman shit.
Well, I think there's two sides of this. There's the prevention, and there's the what you can do if you are, right? And I think that's where Angela and Jessica come in, because I'd love to have enough money to live exactly the way I want, and everybody on this earth is trying to do their best. So I think you gotta. This is the reality of it. But
middle ground.
If you guys don't mind, I put together a couple slides just quickly with this, and Angela touched on the chronic inflammatory response syndrome, and I know Jessica wants to talk a little bit more about the microbiome. So I'm going to put this slide up, and basically, this is a very general, quick, forgive the untechnical, we just put this together. But I think what Angela was touching on is, we have the symptoms, and we have of what this chronic inflammatory response syndrome is. It's very cyclical, and once you get caught in the loop, this just keeps reinforcing itself. And Angela, what are your thoughts? Maybe you can walk us through, because you've been exposed to a lot of this stuff and what's kind of going on.
So when we test for CIRS, when we get tested for CIRS, they test you for something called your haplotype or your HLA gene. And they break it down to these different gene sequences. So you can have a multi-susceptible gene, you can have a Lyme gene, you can have a mold gene. And, those gene sequences can determine why somebody with a certain gene that has a multi-susceptible gene, that's me, I have a multi-susceptible gene. So it's everything that I'm exposed to. It doesn't have to be mold. It could be dust for all we know. It could be, I could be standing behind a Mack truck that's polluting the air. I live in Los Angeles. I feel like I'm being chronically exposed to something in this smoggy air, you know? So that causes inflammation as well. And then when we determine what gene sequence you have, then you can kind of go into how your body responds to that based on your own genetic sequence. But there are other factors we have to look at. There's cytokines. So we've got like C3A and C4A and TGF beta 1. Those are, you know, major cytokine inflammatory markers that we look at with people that have CIRS. So, you know, it's a whole story, right? Because like I said, somebody like I could be sitting next to somebody who's also dealing with mold, but they're going to detox much better than me because their detox pathways are much more open and much more efficient than mine. Like for me, I feel like when I got to detox mold, it's like detoxing tar out of my body, whereas somebody else might detox mold like it's detoxing water, you know? It's just everybody has a different body, like you were saying.
Yeah. And I think like if you look at the, you know, even during the pandemic when they were talking about cytokine storm, you took two people in the same environment. One has the cytokine storm, we'll call it, and the other one doesn't, but they've both been in the same presence. This is the same thing with when we're talking about mold, where, you know, your body matters, your environment, your ability to clear toxins, your ability to defend your immune system. And I think that's probably a very, like, you know, where your immune system is at and how well your body just deals with this is the other side of this, that, you know, it could be just bad sleep to one person where someone's having anaphylaxis or their guts destroyed by just the same exposure, that's where it gets nasty.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's the biggest challenge is that, you know, you've got people that get well, right? And then like they go and live their life and we forget that we are genetically susceptible, and then we have symptoms again, and it just sometimes feels like a loop, like a cycle loop, because I just want to go live my life. I don't want to have to live my life in a bubble. And so, you know, and when you're doing like we were talking about, when you're doing everything right, you know, you're utilizing your circadian rhythms, you're grounding, you're this, you're that, like. But then you don't realize that maybe the hotels that you're staying in, or the gym that you're going to, or your new nail salon, or whatever, you know, it's like these little bits that just keep getting that. It's like these hits are like drops in a bucket, and eventually that bucket gets filled again, and then we've got to empty the bucket.
Yeah, no doubt.
Can I just say something, Tony? I was just looking at your graphic there. It says biotoxin exposure in the first box.
Yeah.
Water damaged buildings. A lot of people think that mold is only caused by a leak in the building or something like that. I think I explained it a little bit earlier on. I'm hoping that it's going to sink in a little bit more. And if anybody wants to question me on this, you know my handle.
Yeah.
Just text me. Anybody. I will help anybody out on this subject.
That's great.
The dew point. I love it.
Exactly. The dew point has nothing to do with a leaky pipe. Most of it. Not all. 100%. Just it's not all to do with leaky pipes.
But I'm just
going to throw that in there.
Is it fair to say though, Brian? Is it fair to say though, Brian? Like it says, water damaged buildings. If you do have a leaky pipe, can you?
Oh yeah. Of course, yeah.
Assume that there's going to be some.
Yes. Anywhere you've got moisture and darkness, mold is going to grow.
There you go.
That's what it needs: is moisture and darkness.
Now, Jessica, I know you put a little message in there to talk about the microbiome. Maybe do you want to sort of using this sort of the chart here? How does your microbiome get affected? And I think you touched on it a little bit before to sort of mitigate some of this stuff.
Yeah, so to Angela's point as well, I had the same problem where I could not lose weight, and I have been thin my whole life. I've always had a great metabolism. Before I ever had any exposure to mold, I could eat whatever I wanted all the time. I was not carnivore. I was eating like Italian subs 3 times a day, just like my dad, like ate like a contractor. And then I wasn't able to anymore. And after I had my 3rd son and I stopped eating the kefir, I put 30 pounds on. And that was like unacceptable. So that's when I went lion and I just only ate meat and I dropped that weight. But the reason why we can't lose weight when we have mold exposure is because we store toxins in our fat cells. So when your body is tucking all that mold away and your body's not ready to process that because your detox pathways are closed, you will not be able to lose the weight until you open those detox pathways. So I want to quickly tell people how they can do that, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So CIRS is reinforced because the body's colonized with mold. So when you're getting those exposures, just like Angela said, behind the teeth, in the lungs, we are made of water. So inherently, there are parts of our bodies that are going to grow mold.
We all have dew points.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, very funny. Okay.
So if you have a microbiome issue already and you are not in preventative mode, you will be susceptible. Or if you're not someone who has very strong mitochondria, working out a lot can also be a good preventative measure. Anyway, a lot of issues with mold are actually coming from the inside. So once we get colonized with mold, the mold is acting in our bodies and we can respond to our own microbiome, which is why when we eat the high histamine foods, the mold that's inside our body is reacting to those foods and causing us to have histamine overload. It's not necessarily the food, it's that our histamine bucket's already full from our own microbiome. So the mold wants to be fed sugar.
Yes.
Sugar, just like
Hey, there we go. Yeah, I think we can all agree.
So when you have mold toxicity, you want sugar. I was eating 2 pints of ice cream a day, and then my husband and I would split like 12 cookies, and I would still want more. And that's not me. It was the mold. And when we got out of the mold, that stopped immediately overnight. The mold didn't want to be fed anymore. So when you leave the environment, you begin to eliminate the mold in the body, you can very slowly start to heal the microbiome. You want to open up your detox pathways. What are your detox pathways? You have 4. Your lungs, your kidneys, your bowel, your liver, okay? If you're constipated, your detox pathways are shut down. You need to fix that. How can you do that? So you're gonna stay low histamine because we don't want to be overflowing that bucket and keeping that inflammatory cycle going. Castor oil packs right over the liver every single night. That's going to help to get the bile flowing through the liver, and it will help with constipation as well. Sunshine is a mast cell regulator. It will help to reduce your histamine responses. Now, when it was summertime and Teddy was in the sun every single day, he could eat whatever he wanted. Now that it's winter, we have to keep him lamb only. He could have beef in the summer. So we're seeing that cycle with him. If it's not summertime, you can do red light therapy, of course. I recommend a high-powered red light straight on the liver if you're an adult for about 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes straight. And then for kids, 2 to 3 minutes. They really don't need that much time. That will also help you sleep because when your histamines are going crazy, your liver is upset, you can't sleep at night, especially between that 1 to 3 window because that's the circadian rhythm when your liver is the most active. Enemas and coffee enemas. No one likes to do enemas, right? They are terrible. But I have children with autism that I work with that they're doing enemas 4 times a day. And sometimes they're getting nothing, and sometimes they're getting hard biofilm that looks like bark coming out that has been stuck to the inside of their colon. Now you can imagine that that's where all of these pathogens are living and thriving. So if you continue to do those enemas, homemade enemas, not fleet enemas or medicated enemas, you can open up those detox pathways, and it also will help the bile from your liver flow. You can sweat if you're able to. Some people's detox pathways get so shut down that they're not able to sweat. Sauna is dangerous if you can't sweat. Grounding, obviously. And then magnesium, clay, Epsom salt baths. That's going to help open up the detox pathways and also replenish some of what you have lost. And then the foods that I always recommend people start to introduce. Now I'm talking like drop by drop. Some people can only tolerate a drop or two of these foods before they start to have reactions. So meat stock, which is made quickly, right? It's low histamine. We're not going to cook it 72 hours. You will have anaphylaxis if you do that, especially for someone whose gut is very permeable. So a drop of meat stock a day, and lamb is a great thing to start with if you're someone who's very reactive. Fermented dairy, a drop of the homemade Traps yogurt. 24 hours fermented, no lactose. Absolutely no lactose, because then you're feeding the mold and you're making the issue worse. Farm fresh eggs and iodine. And of course, all those things are introduced very slowly too, but once you build up on all of these foods, you're going to push the pathogens and mold out of your body and you will heal, you will feel better. For me, when we were living in the mold, when I first started the yogurt, I was like, I don't take it easy on myself when I'm doing detox. With my kids, I'm very careful, but with me, I'm like, let's just plow through this, we're gonna get it done. So I drank a quart of the yogurt every single day for a whole week. And I woke up, I took 4-hour naps every day. I woke up on day 7 and I felt like Spider-Man. I didn't do anything, I had energy, and it never went away as long as I kept up with it. Wow. So these are the things that you can do if your detox pathways are shut down, if you're concerned, if you're still having inflammation. You can see I'm still having inflammation because I'm still breastfeeding Teddy, so I can't eat high histamine foods or he starts having reactions. But as soon as I'm done breastfeeding, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And for now, sticking to keto has mitigated a lot of the effects for both of us, but also keeping both of our detox pathways as open as possible.
Cool. Yeah, well, that's, you know, the experience says a lot. And I think we all we've all heard it. We get wrapped up in, there's no study, there's no science. This is not stuff anybody can study. You can know that there's facts, but I mean, everybody's case is going to be different. Angela, when you're helping people, how important is the diet in relation to, you know, like Jessica's mentioning all these things in the people that you've helped? Like, do they need to get their diet in order, or is this stuff that, what do you find?
Absolutely. I mean, diet is definitely number one. And like, I have people that do struggle with severe adrenal issues, and they're coming from a standard American diet or a plant-based diet. And if I were to put them right onto a lion diet, their adrenals would just crash. So you have to find a balance, because the other thing that mold does do is it affects phase 2 detoxification pathways. So things that might be okay on a low histamine diet are actually really high in something that we call salicylates. And there's also things that are really high in oxalates, which can also be problematic with people that are suffering with mold issues. For me, it started as histamine, then it went into salicylates, then it went into oxalates. And by the time I was able to figure out what I could and couldn't eat, I was down to just eating meat. So I didn't even know there was such a thing of like a carnivore community. I just was like, well, meat is the only thing I'm not reacting to. So, you know, and then just to echo back what Jessica said, you know, I healed on a nose to tail diet, carnivore diet. I like eat everything. I eat eyeballs, for gosh sakes. I eat brain. You know, I eat heart, kidney, sweetbreads, because, you know, kidney and sweetbreads are really high in the DAO enzyme. And a lot of people that are sensitive, they can't take supplements.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, so you've got to find ways that they can do things efficiently, like, you know. And so, you know, when we go into like the detox pathways, like dry brushing, for example, and the Epsom salt baths and the coffee enemas and the castor oil packs, those are usually much more tolerable with somebody with chronic illness than, you know, having them take a binder at first, you know, and have them take like a pill, because everybody reacts so differently. And like, for example, vitamin D, which, you know, a lot of people with these issues are very deficient. So you've got to find something else. So like, I've just been recently learning more about the Spurdy lamp, which is a vitamin D lamp.
Yeah.
For, you know, red light therapy, going out in the sun. I'm grateful. I live in Los Angeles, so I've got sunshine all year round. But I'm originally from Pennsylvania, you know, so PA right now is very cold. So
It's like 20 right now there.
Yeah. So
I live in Denmark. We have about 4 hours of daylight at the moment.
That rain, damn it, rain.
So I really do feel like, you've got to get the diet dialed in, and we all have such a different microbiome and diversity in our gut that we've got to figure out what works for each person. And so sometimes, like, I will focus on doing more of an animal based, and then we'll go into keto, and then we'll go into carnivore, and then we'll go into lion if needed. I've been 5 years lion diet plus organs.
Wow.
So,
cool.
But the thing is not everybody can do that, because then we got to also add in, what if they have alpha gal? That's another autoimmune issue from having a tick bite, but also can be activated by mold. So you've got to figure out how to, like, there's so many things that you've got to take into consideration here.
Well, I think it seems like everybody here, it's like staying close to Mother Nature as best you can.
Yes, 1000%.
Pretty good start, right?
Yes.
That's been my handle all along.
Yes. And also, because so what my practice mainly focuses on is mind, body, spirit work. And so, we can't get closer to our spirit than being in nature. Nature really reconnects us to our spirit. And, there is a mind body connection. And I believe that trauma also makes us more susceptible from these toxins and these pathogens as well, because trauma weakens our immune system. Trauma weakens our nervous system. We're all energetic beings here. We have a heart, right, that beats without being plugged in. Our nervous system is our electricity. So if we've got things that are, aside from these toxins, but that are also very toxic to us, like negative emotions, traumatic experiences, that are also impeding on our spirit, that's also going to affect our body's ability to heal.
Yeah. I think a big word, like, that's been coming into my awareness lately is alignment. And
yes, me too.
Everything that you guys are all talking about is, trying to bring your body into alignment the best you can. And, there's forces of the environment, forces of our modern day that sort of are trying to drag you out of alignment, and whatever you can do to try and get the body back into its natural homeostatic state. I mean, whether it's trauma, nervous system, mold, these are all very holistic modalities. And, we all kind of come from the carnivore as a good foundation. But like what I'm understanding from all you guys, sometimes it's not enough. You have to go that next level and understand that, it's all this stuff that's pulling you out of alignment, and the body wants to heal. I think that's the good news about this is you just, so it's a puzzle. And sometimes these are really tricky to navigate. Yeah. I want to talk about maybe what we can do. I know I've been recently with my clients and my friends and family, encouraging them to take a VCS test. I know it's not deadly accurate, but it's a good sort of baseline to sort of see what's going on. And it's a donation. It's not an expensive test. And I think there's something, value to that. And you can almost track, and I have with my clients, their numbers do change and go down with certain interventions. How do you guys feel about that? We'll start with you, Jessica.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should definitely figure out if you have mold in your home somewhere, even hidden mold. To Brian's point, that's probably the most insidious type, because you think everything looks fine, so it must be fine. And that's really not the case. What I see is hidden mold more than anything, that people are reacting. I had one family whose child, they renovated the house and they built this big, beautiful bedroom in a beautiful, humongous house for their child. And what they realized was behind that wall was all black mold. And she had a very violent, severe form of autism, was completely nonverbal, and wasn't responding to any dietary measures. So the hidden mold is the biggest issue, and people should have mycotoxins checked. There's a group on Facebook called, oh gosh, I'll have to send it to you so I can.
We'll put it in the description. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a lot of great resources, and they also have testing you could do of the dust in your home that will measure the mycotoxin levels so you can see if you have hidden mold. That's probably a good place to start. And also take a look at your symptoms. Do your symptoms align with mold toxicity? Have you done the right things and still not been able to heal? I think it can be that simple. And I think it's okay to keep it simple for ourselves and for our clients. If you're looking at yourself and you're saying, I did everything right, and I'm still not getting better, or I'm still having really bad inflammation, then you probably can look to mold. Leave your house for a couple of days. Live in a tent in your backyard.
Yeah, go camping. Go camping.
Definitely.
Did I get
Carnivore.
Yes.
Just make sure your tent's not moldy.
Yeah, like I said, the second we took Teddy out of the place we were staying, he got better. So
Yeah.
And Angela, what do you want to sort of?
Yeah. So I love the VCS test. I think it can be very, very helpful. But there is like a 5% chance that it's not effective as well. During one of my biggest flares, I had a perfect VCS test in my CIRS doctor's office. And then a couple months later, I couldn't pass it for the life of me. So we didn't really understand that, but apparently I guess that is possible. But one of the other tests that I think is also really important is the ERMI, like what Jessica was saying about the environment, but there's an ERMI test or a HERTSMI test that's also really, really great. And also a Marcon's test. Okay. Marcon's is an antibiotic resistant staph infection that's in your nose. And a lot of people that are struggling with mold and have histamine issues often have sinus issues. Mm-hmm. And it's not that inexpensive of a test. I think it's maybe like $80 or something. And doing a swab in your nose can also determine if there's any mold spores up there as well.
Awesome. Well, we'll if you guys don't mind those things, we'll put them in the description for people to kind of reference. But I think that's a pretty good place to end it today. I'm so grateful for all of you guys coming together and coming on today, because I think this is something that's we don't talk about it enough. I don't think people realize.
Exactly, Tony. That's what sparked my interest in this. And it can be such an easy fix. It's just that people in the construction industry really don't understand it properly. And that's maybe right. That's an avenue that I'm going to go down and try and help people more with.
Yeah,
definitely in a consultation way or whatever it may be. But it's just something that sparked my interest yesterday, I think it came up. And mold is affecting so many people. And I know how to stop that mold happening. Mm-hmm. So why shouldn't I actually flip and step in here and start talking about it more?
So, we need you. We need you.
I'm not familiar with the VCS testing and all that kind of stuff. I've just written it down. I'm going to study it because it hasn't affected me personally. Mm-hmm. What has affected me personally is seeing the homes that these people live in that gets affected by this. And that's what I want to help out with. As you know, Tony, I'm very active in this space. And I'm about to get a fucking hell of a lot more active. Sorry, you'll have to bleep that out, because this is something that combines two of my passions together. And thank you for having me on today.
We got to say a big congratulations to Brian for getting his Carnivore coaching certificate. He is qualified. He's a coach. He's ready to go. I love it. And,
amazing. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
And that being said, I do encourage people to realize that this is deeper than the diet. The diet is something you can control 100%. I think we're all in agreement about that. But there's sometimes certain things that happen that you have to go a little bit deeper. And like I mentioned at the beginning, it's not about fear. This is about awareness and just bringing it into your awareness that something may be possible, and not to mention someone you love or your life is part of may not be the same as you. Because I've dealt with some carnivore couples where someone's having a result and the other person is like, how is this happening? We're all unique, and these things can be very, So we'll just pass it around to let people know where people can get a hold of you. Brian, you want to start? Where do people?
Yeah, well,
how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm Brian Kelly. I'm an Irishman. I live in Denmark at the minute. I'm known on Instagram mostly as Hunter Gatherer Mindset. It's a kind of an idea I put together about a year ago, whereby you go back to ancestral eating, grounding, sunshine. All of these things work hand in hand to bring us back to how we used to live in nature. And my handle seems to have worked out okay. I've got a little bit of a following, yeah. So,
I would say so.
I've just spread it to Facebook and TikTok as well, and I've opened up the YouTube channel, but I haven't started posting there yet. So let's see how that goes. Obviously, I just got qualified as a carnivore coach.
Well done. Congratulations. Jessica, any final thoughts? And then where do people find you, and how do they get a hold of you if they need some help?
Yeah, well, I'm Jessica Roman, obviously. And I started out as a mom whose daughter was born with a terminal genetic disease, and we were able to heal her on the carnivore diet, specifically the no plant gaps diet, from intestinal failure. Her disease progressed very quickly, and when she was 2, she was diagnosed with intestinal failure. She is 6 now. She's been 100% on the no plant gaps diet for 4 years. So if you're an adult and you think you can't do it, my 6-year-old's been doing it since she was 2. No cheats.
Cool.
My website is chealthcollective.org. We have all Christian health practitioners to help people from a biblical point of view and talk through, healing from that standpoint. And all of my socials are C Health Collective. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I think TikTok is C Health Collect because they limit. But I work with clients one-on-one. I'm a certified GAPS coach, and I mostly focus on intestinal failure and severe GI issues. I work with mostly kids and families.
That's amazing.
It's beautiful.
And Angela?
I love her story.
Hi, I'm Angela, and you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube as Meat-Based Medium. And I am an integrative practitioner, and I focus on helping people integrate different modalities that reconnect the mind, body, and spirit to help them find the root cause and teach them how to become their own practitioner.
Amazing. And just before we say goodbye, I just want to once again thank you all for being here. But we've had an interview with Brian on our channel, and if you want to find out, if you don't know who he is on Instagram and all over the carnivore community, go to our YouTube channel and find our interview with him. We just we had an amazing chat with Jessica. Angela, I would love to have you on and get into some deep dive stuff about mind, body, spirit. I'm a big believer, obviously, in alignment.
I would love that. I forgot to mention you can find me on meatbasedmedium.com as well. There I have a lot of all of my information about that.
Well, I think we could probably all have talk for hours about this, and we didn't describe Jessica. We're gonna have to do number 3 because we didn't even talk about the sound factor, and I'm sure Angela would probably be about the frequencies.
Yes, frequencies are so important because there's so many different hertz.
Okay, are we going there?
Yeah, I've got time. It's up to you guys. I don't want to waste your time. If
anyone's interested in that machine that I mentioned in our interview, I'm sending out a newsletter about it because, like I said, we have to be very careful talking about it on the internet. Everything I've posted about it has been removed. So the frequency machine that I use for my daughter and for all of my clients who are in intestinal failure, autism, all of that, I'm going to be sending out a newsletter. So at chealthcollective.org, people can sign up and they will get the information about that specific machine. And it's sound frequency and microcurrent, so electrical frequency as well.
We're not going to mention it this time. We won't mention the name because we
won't say it.
Nobody wants us to know this stuff. So, but maybe we can do another roundtable. Let's do something, and we can talk about the other side of this stuff, where it's you want to talk about ancestral from the beginning. There was sound, and
I would love that.
Yeah. And I've been scratching the surface on this, not really you know, Jessica and I talked about our tinfoil hats, and there's a lot of stuff going on that you know, we kind of got to tread lightly. I mean, God forbid we say the C word and we can and you can heal from it. Then all of a sudden you get struck down, which is tragic and horrifying, but it's just the way it is. So we have to use these platforms to the best of our abilities. But wink, wink, nudge, nudge. What Jessica's talking about, this machine, is very real, and it's not a coincidence that it does what it does. So, but guys, maybe that's a great place to start. I will reach out to all of you, get all your stuff for the description. Everybody that's thank you for being a part of this. If you're live in the chats on Instagram and YouTube, but this will be recorded. And if you or somebody you know is just not healing, doesn't know where to go, they feel they've done everything right, they're just off, from being off to being hurt, this could be affecting you. And it's something to always keep in mind, especially when you're doing everything right. And it's, in my opinion, probably the most, if not the most insidious thing that you're not aware of, and that can be happening to all of us.
Say something, Tony?
You betcha.
It can be hidden behind your walls.
There you go.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Jessica, I see you nodding. Angela, I think I see you nodding too. And Tony, it can be hiding behind your walls. I've ripped apart buildings. I know exactly where it hides. I've done it for years and years and years. And I will say that I do class myself as an expert in where to find mold in a building. And yeah, like I said, Tony, this only came up the other day. It's something I really, now I'm passionate about, putting both of my passions together, and let's see if I can come up with a little niche, not to sell anything, but to help people.
Yeah, there you go.
That are you know.
And before we end it, I just want to say, if reach out to everybody here on this panel. If you have questions, if you have anything that, you know, I really appreciate all of your wisdom, everybody. It was a really good chat. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
And we will definitely do it again.
My door is open. Anybody wants to ask me anything
Oh,
about
we
construction
can
physics, just DM me.
Oh, I was going to talk to him after we went off live.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Sorry,
Well,
guys.
this is on behalf of the carnivore community, representing the carnivore community worldwide. Brian is a very, very big part of it. These are where carnivores have conversations, and it's real people, real talk. It's an amazing platform to just get involved. Make sure you subscribe them on Instagram and YouTube. They need the YouTube subscription. We have to get our message out as much as possible. Of course, Mark Innes, Fitness Beyond Time, he put this actually all together. Mark and Victoria do their Carnivore Evolution podcast. They do great interviews one-on-one with people, their stories, their healing journeys. And of course, the Meat of the Matter podcast is live every Sunday. We do our thing where we get together and talk about all the bullshit and the nonsense that's going on in the world. And
Love it.
subscribe to everybody. All the descriptions of our beautiful guests today will be in there. And don't be silent. Let's make these things happen. Thank you all for being here, and we will see you soon.
Pleasure.
Thank you
Tony.
so much. It was such a pleasure to be here today with you guys.